Hi there, my name's Ted, trail name Hawkeye. I am just coming back or finishing up an overnight camp out here in Big Cypress National Preserve. I'm on the Prairie trail. I spent the night out here last night, and I'm going to take you through how I got here, what my camp setup was. I'm going to do a bag dump, go through all my gear and equipment, talk about the ecosystems out here, and hopefully you'll enjoy this video. Hey there, school got out at 3:55, got home at 4:05, got the rest of my gear for the weekend. And I am on the road now, heading out to Big Cypress National Preserve for 2 nights backcountry camping. Night hiking through a swamp? Sure, why not? Sounds like fun. This good to go breakfast hash is pretty good. It's gluten-free, vegetarian, potatoes, onions, squash, feta. Not bad, tasty. So that was my first night sleeping in the Hennesy Hammock, and man, that was a really good sleep. I don't think I quite have the laying on a diagonal dialed in yet, but I slept well. I only woke up once, which is normal for me when I sleep, and I got a great night's rest. I have my Nemo tensor sleeping pad underneath my Big Agnes 20-degree down bag, and it got down to, in town was reporting 51 degrees. I'm going to say it was probably about 48, 49 out here. Very warm. Slept well. I left the mesh on this side open with the tarp flipped over to the other side. That's not even staked down. And aside from what I would consider to be normal condensation, you're going to get condensation no matter what, especially out here. I'm in the middle of a swamp, so there's a lot of humidity. The bag was wet on the surface, and it's drying in the sun now, but the down didn't get wet at all. Did have a little rainfall this morning from the condensation just from the top of the mesh, but it was a very comfortable sleep, open, airy, beautiful. I woke up before sunrise, so I was able to just lay in the bag and watch the sun come up, and had a beautiful night's rest. I love it. It's a little bit heavy, but in terms of comfort, it was worth the comfort. So I will definitely be adding that into the regular rotation of camping systems that I use. And it is pitched a little bit low, but the road bed that I'm on right here pitches off right at the edge where I am. And these Sabal palms, Cabbage palms, are a little bit tricky to tie off to, so I got it up about as high as I could from where I was standing on that pitch. Didn't hit the ground at all. When I was in it, I probably really only had about 6 inches clearance between my bottom and the ground, but no issues there. And as you can see, I'm in the sawgrass and the mullygrass. But it was a beautiful setup. I was looking for a flatter spot with maybe some pine, but out here, I knew that I was not going to find that out here. This is all cypress out in here, cypress and Sabal palm and prairie. So stringing up between 2 pines on a flat ground was not going to happen last night. My first campsite that I was going to go to there was a van parked out in front of that trailhead, and while there's plenty of spaces to go, I just really kind of wanted to be by myself. So when I got here last night, I pulled up at the Prairie gate, and there was one vehicle parked out at the gate. And again, there's this trail is about 3 miles long, and I'm still about 1.5 miles, 3/4 from the actual Prairie camp ground out at the end. That's about about 100 yard by 100 yard square that used to be an oil exploration site. And I would have continued out there, but I know from past experience that there's only a couple of trees on that site, and I just didn't want to get there and realize that those trees were not going to be suitable for hanging the hammock. So as I was walking the trail, and I went down another couple 100 yards or so, I was just looking for 2 Sabals that I could string up between, and this happened to be the best combination. So good experience. Great location, very quiet out here. I can hear a little bit of traffic on I-75 just north of me, but it's really quiet. Very, very quiet this morning. I could hear the insects last night. The birds were quiet all night long. Right around sunrise, I heard some probably crows off in the distance, all talking to each other. That's kind of what they do. They meet up in the morning and they get to talking, and then they go out and, they head off to work for the day, and then they'll come back around sunset and share their experiences at sunset. Out here in the prairie, there's not a whole lot going on. When I head back in a few minutes, I'll be up along Turner River Road with the canal. There's a lot of wading birds up there. Lots of wading birds. Wood storks, herons, herons of all kinds, egrets. Saw a couple of hawks out there last night. A little bit more wooded up there. Did hear an owl coming in. Saw some eye shine from a few gators off in the distance. I did get a pretty decent picture of a baby gator on the side of the trail. Mama was probably tucked up underneath the culvert that I was standing on top of. But gators are really essentially just big babies anyway. They want to have nothing to do with us. So when gators hear us coming, they just scurry off. And aside from that, it's just wide open space. The night was glorious. Big Cypress National Preserve is one of the only international dark sky sites on the East Coast. So I'm in the middle of one of the darkest places that you can get, really east of the Appalachian Mountains. And I had the light dome from Miami to the southeast, and the light dome from Naples to my west. And Naples was actually a little bit brighter because I'm closer to Naples, but overhead the skies were beautiful. I got a couple of really decent sky shots last night with the camera. Cannot wait to get home and process those and see what I got. The moon came out 10:30 or 11, but I think I was already asleep by then. The last time I was out here, there was just a thin crescent moon. It must have been about I'm going to say 2 or 3 day crescent moon, so it was really thin. And I have never in my life been in a place where it's so dark that I could actually see my shadow being cast by a crescent moon. It was just amazing. That thin little crescent moon, it was dark enough out here that I could see my shadow from that crescent moon. Amazing. As Venus was setting last night, I couldn't capture it with the camera, but it was just astonishing. Venus was low in the sky when I got here, and as it started to set, it went through the whole sunset shading into this really deep orange, and I've never seen that. I've never seen Venus in sunset heading into those orange shades that we typically associate with the sun. So it was just beautiful. This dark sky site is amazing. I may have picked up some of the Milky Way last night with a couple of the shots that I took. I don't know. I was shooting with a 24 millimeter lens, So I wasn't getting a real wide field with that lens. I need an 11 millimeter lens to get that wide field. And especially in these landscapes are so wide that in order to capture it, you really do need that wide field that an 11 millimeter affords. So I'll be looking into that real soon. But great overnight trip. I'm gonna finish my breakfast, finish my second cup of coffee, and once the bag is dried out a little bit more, it's not going to dry completely, I'm going to go ahead and pack up and head back in on Turner River Road and just work the canal and see if I can't work some birds as I'm heading back in towards 41 and see what I can capture there. So the hash is really tasty. Even though they say to, everybody says rehydrate for, 15 minutes, I usually let them go for 20. Everything in here rehydrated really well. The feta still has a little bit of crunch to it. It's not objectionable, but it's not a soft feta. It didn't rehydrate completely. Not objectionable. It's got a good tooth to it. I was worried maybe the butternut squash would be kind of mushy. It's actually not. Everything has a really good texture to it. The flavoring in here, we've got olive oil, rosemary, sea salt, thyme, oregano, peppercorn, and a lot of times these freeze-dried meals can be really overly flavored. They can be a little bit much on the flavoring, and whoever did this recipe did a fantastic job. It is so well balanced. I'm not picking out any one flavor. I don't put pepper on my foods. I'm not a add food to my pepper kind of guy. So I was a little bit worried about the black peppercorn. Really not picking that. It's not picking it up. It's really well balanced. It's very tasty, very smooth, great consistency, perfect balance between the sweetness of the squash and the spinach and the potato flakes. Really well balanced with the flavoring, not overly salty at all. You get a lot of times on these, you get way too much salt flavor, way too much spice flavor, and gotta say, Good to Go did a great job. I actually bought these at LL Bean when I was up in Maine this summer. I'm from Maine, and we took a day trip up to LL Bean, and I loaded up on some Good to Go meals, and really enjoying this right now. So hey, 2 thumbs up on this one. Well, there's nothing better than a good bag dump, right? So let's start with the bag. I've got the Mystery Ranch Bridger 55. Absolutely love this bag. This thing gives outstanding suspension. The suspension system on this is wonderful, especially this hip belt. When you cinch this thing down tight, get everything adjusted in this runner's vest style double sternum harness, the weight is so incredibly well distributed. I've carried this bag up to about 40 pounds, and it is wonderful for that. On the hip belt, I've got 2 pockets. Over here, I keep my water filter and water system on the right, so that's always really readily accessible. On the left, I'm going to keep things like electrolytes, snacks, things that I'm going to need while I'm walking. So the things that I need while I'm walking are here. Then I've got 2 pockets up in here. Sunglasses will go up here, phone will go over here. So I've got ready access to those things as I need them. I've got my whistle over here on my strap so that if anything happens and I need to call out, I've got that available. I've got a Peak Designs camera clip up here on the top of the strap. There's the whistle, pockets. I've got Hyperlite bags on the side. The Hyperlite bags basically is battery storage. I keep my extra camera batteries and my phone battery and charger cables on the side. So again, I've got ready access to those as I need them. On the side of the belt, I've got my 2 water pockets. So I'll have my Nalgene's in there. And if I'm going on any kind of distance, I will use the I will use a siphon system so that I can just keep the water back there and be able to drink from that siphon without having to pull the water bottle out. But like I said, this thing carries amazingly well. It is incredibly well designed, unbelievably comfortable. I love this bag. And for this type of trip where I'm going to be carrying camping or camera gear and all the weight that goes with that, this is the best bag for that purpose. I can put the tripod down on the bottom strap here, and then I've got plenty of extra storage. I can throw one of my lenses back in the back pocket there. So I'm going to go ahead and set the pack down. It's empty right now. Oh, also on my waist, I've got a Hyperlite hip pack. And the Hyperlite hip pack, again, I'm going to keep anything in here that I might need during the day while I'm hiking. I've got my glasses in there, spare battery, extra light. I'll keep, what else do I keep in there? Charging cables. I'll keep a data book. There's a nice pocket in the back here where I can keep a data book, a field book. I keep that in there. Oh, these pockets also make a great pocket for carrying your trail data book up here, maps, whatever else. So unbelievably versatile system. And the Hyperlite stuff is all waterproof. So that's great stuff. Set this down and talk about what I'm wearing. So on the head, I've got a buff, keep the sun off the forehead. I've got my sunglasses, Maui Jims. I call these my Geddy Lee edition. They're not Geddy Lee edition, but I am partial to Maui Jim. Love their glasses, and I do like the Geddy Lee styling of that. I've got another buff around my neck that I can pull up as a face gaiter so that I've got full sun pro. I've got my Outdoor Research sun gloves on. It's about 50, I'm going to say it's probably about, it's in the low 50s right now. Great for wind protection, awesome for sun protection. Use these all the time. Good grippy, and they've got the touch pads on there so I can use my phone. I've got my Outdoor Research rain jacket on as a windbreak. Underneath that, I've got a Patagonia puffy. This is not a wool puffy, it's a synthetic puffy. Very lightweight, very warm, very comfortable to wear. And then my base layer is a Howler Brothers sun hoodie. And I use this thing all the time. If I'm kayaking, if I'm hiking, it's extremely comfortable. It dries off quickly, and it does keep the sun off. On my waist, I've got my Garmin InReach Mini. That always stays on my person. That way, I don't, if anything should happen, I'm not trying to get back to a backpack where the InReach is. It's on my person. If I should fall out there and break an ankle, I've got that. In my pocket, I've got my folder, little Kershaw folding knife. Use this for many years now and love it. That stays with me. That's my everyday, all day, every day, always on my pocket. Outdoor Research lightweight hiking pants. I have worn these in Colorado at 11,000 feet in cold weather. They are comfortable whether it's hot out, whether it's cold out. If it is cold out, I'll throw on some smart wool leggings underneath, and that keeps me nice and warm. On a day like today where it starts off cool, my legs are cool, and it keeps the sun off my legs. I don't wear shorts. I'm at that age now, being fair-skinned and fair-haired, where sun protection is more important to me than style. The pocket on the side, this is my dump pocket. Any garbage, if I open up a energy bar or an electrolyte pack, all my garbage goes in this pocket right here. If I find garbage down on the ground, I'll pick that up. That goes in the dump pocket. Lighter, always in the front pocket. I always keep a Bic lighter in the front pocket. Again, always on my person. Today I'm wearing a belt. I don't usually wear a belt with these pants, but today I've got on my Oh, I forget the name of it, but it's just a tactical belt. Keep my pants up, and I don't really need it because the pants have a drawstring, and so I don't need a belt. I happen to have had that on when I left the house, and that's what I'm wearing. Base puffy shell long pants. I've got my darn tough socks, which I love, and then Merrill hiking shoes. I've got about 8 different versions of those shoes. So let's come on over here and we'll take a look at the gear and get a little bit closer up with that. This is my Big Agnes 20-degree down Sidewinder sleeping bag. I love this bag. I'm a side sleeper. This is the most comfortable bag that I've ever slept in. I've used mummy bags, rectangular bags. This is the first down bag that I've owned. I love this. It is comfortable. It is lightweight. I absolutely love this thing. It's just such a great bag. I recommended it to a friend last fall when we went, or last spring when we went hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and she really enjoyed that bag as well. So I've just got it hanging up on, okay, in Florida we call these boot jacks. This is a Sabal palm tree, or also a cabbage palm, depending on where you're from. Same tree. These are called boot jacks, and the legend is that back in the settler days, settlers would hang their boots up on those jacks to dry. There's Sabal palms will either have boot jacks or they won't, and it's not a one is a male, one is a female, or it's a different variety. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Some Sabal palms have boot jacks, some don't. These make great reindeer Christmas decorations. You throw some googly eyes on there and a little face and you've got an instant reindeer decoration. Also make great kindling. They burn fast, so they're great for kindling. They will burn quick. We go camping with the kids. They absolutely love gathering those things up as kindling wood for the fire. I do not. When I'm backcountry camping, I don't burn. I only burn in a campground with a fire ring. So I got my Cascade Mountain Tech hiking sticks. Love these things. I've had them for a couple of years now. I went with the camo version, the woodland camo version, because I've got a rain poncho that I use that is also camo, and this will work to set up as a shelter. More importantly for me though, if I wanted to go birding and set up a camouflage blind, that camouflage poncho and the camouflage sticks just helps me to blend into the environment. That's why I went with the camo version on that. So let's take a closer look at the sleep system. Again, of course, the Big Agnes Sidewinder 20-degree down. Sleep system, I've got the Hennesy XL Hammock. Last night was the first night that I slept in this, and I loved it. I gotta say, this was probably the best night's sleep that I've had camping. Yeah, it's strung a little bit low right now. It's hard to get up higher in that Sabal palm. The ground pitches off ever so slightly off the roadbed where the camera is, so there's a little bit of a pitch here. I got it up about as high as I could. I'd like it higher, but that was as best I could do in this location. I left the tarp open last night on one side. The tarp will close and cover this in case of rain, and it's staked out and everything is pre-guy wired. The stakes are down here in another bag. Definitely going to be putting this into the regular rotation. Wind's starting to pick up. Put this into the regular rotation for shelters. It's got a nice stuff pocket up top here. I put my headlight up here last night and my phone, so I had ready access to that. Inside I've got the Nemo Tensor sleeping pad. Right now it's deflated. This is an insulated sleeping pad, and it kept me warm. Again, when I was in Colorado at 11,000 feet, very cold night, comfortable night's sleep, keeps me warm. And while it's thinner, I was concerned, being a side sleeper, I was worried about bottoming out around my hips, and I gotta say that was never an issue. I did not have one night sleeping on that Nemo tensor pad where I felt like I was bottoming out. What I'll do is take my Thermarest sleeping pad, which, by the way, when it's hanging on the outside of your pack, everybody looks at that and goes, oh, that's an awfully small sleeping pad. No, it's a sitting pad. Insulated on one side. I'll take this and I'll slide it up under the Nemo tensor under my hip as an additional cushion there. And as a sleep system, that works out incredibly comfortably. It's also great for sitting on the ground. I had breakfast over here at the base of this Sabal palm, so I put down the sitting pad, sat there, leaned against the tree, had my breakfast and coffee. Love that thing. Nemo tensor pillows. I've got a Sea to Summit inflatable pillow. I use this basically between my legs when I sleep, again, because I'm a side sleeper. That just kind of sits between my knees and just increases my comfort a little bit. It also, once it warms up, makes a great insulation pad inside the sleeping bag. I've got a Thermarest pillow. This collapses down nicely, comfortable pillow. And that's the sleep system. I sleep in my pants, I sleep in my puffy, and I was very warm last night. Had my socks been moist, I do have a dry pair of socks, so I could have changed out my socks, but I wear wool socks anyway, so that wasn't an issue, but I do have dry socks just in case. And this thing, I'll show you the takedown process. I love this. It is awesome. It's a little bit heavy, I'm not going to lie. This is a heavyweight system. I wouldn't use this if I was backpacking any kind of distance, but for a night like last night where I'm just coming out, I'm only out a mile and a half. It was worth the wait to get the comfort. And out here in the cypress swamp, you never know if you're going to find a dry spot to set up a tent. So with that in mind, I wanted the hammock, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. Bag dumps. So let's look at what's in the bag. Okay, camera gear. Let's talk about camera gear real quick. I've got a Canon R8 camera. Right now I'm using the 24-70 lens on that. On top I've got my Rode Wireless Go 2 for sound, cabled in. Got a Manfrotto Be-Free aluminum tripod. I looked at the carbon fiber tripod, but the cost to weight savings didn't justify the expense. That's not the Manfrotto Be-Free aluminum works out great for me. It's fine. We've got the Wireless Go base pack here, charging station. There's a battery in here to recharge. There's also an extra mic in here with the dead kitten screen on it. I've got my Osmo Action 2 for action shots, walking past. Extra batteries are in the backpack. I've got my 100 to 400 birding lens with me, telephoto lens. That's a heavy sucker right there, but on a trip like this, again, coming out just for a day, and I know I'm going to be doing some bird shooting later, so I will definitely carry that with me. So I've got, probably a good solid 5 to 7 pounds of camera gear, but it's worth it. And that's it for camera gear, and plus my phone. Use the phone too for camera gear for shooting. Okay, bag dump. What have I got with me? Okay, obviously I've got my phone that I use for photography, videography, navigation, communication, and all the other things. Again, the Thermarest sitting pad also makes a great kneeling pad. Got the backpack over here. I've got another buff on there, so 3 buffs overkill. Actually 4 buffs because I've got a neck gaiter here too. Overkill on that. All right, I'm going to move from left to right. So food, I've got 3 freeze-dried meals. I've got some Mountain House, some Backpackers Pantry, and some Good to Go from Maine. Backpackers Pantry, I love it. I got to say they're a little heavy on the pepper, a little heavy on the seasoning. I'm not a pepper person, but their food's really good. It reconstitutes extremely well. You can find this stuff just about anywhere. Chili mac with beef, Mountain House chili mac with beef. My personal favorite, and when I find this someplace, I will generally tend to buy everything they've got. Mushroom risotto, that's a nice meal. I like that. I keep some trail mix and some honey stingers handy. I've got my electrolytes handy as well. Right now I'm carrying the Noon hydration tablets in the bag. I also have some Mountain Op packets as well. Food bag. I use the Ursa Sack bear bag. This is a great bag. It's a little heavy, but it's also extremely durable. I have not tested this with a grizzly, so I cannot say for sure. But according to the company, this is grizzly proof. I like it. It cinches down really tight. You tie it up nice and tight. You can either string this up in a tree, which I don't have any trees available here, so I just set it up in another sable palm across the way. Nice reflective threading through the rope. Last night, actually, this rope was it was snaking down through the tree, and when I glanced over and my headlight hit it, it actually kind of did look like a glow-in-the-dark snake. Great bag great food bag. Love it. I've got my Sawyer Squeeze in my C-Knock bag. Used this many, many times. Sawyer Squeeze, easy, love it, just can't freeze. And my C-Knock to squeeze the water through. And this will also double as a, this is a 2-liter, so this is a 2-liter bag. So on an extended water carry, this allows me to carry 2 additional liters of water. Should it be needed, I've only had to do that one time. I did bring a block of cheese with me last night. It's cool enough out here that I don't have to worry about refrigeration because I'm going to finish this thing off this morning. I've got some more breakfast hashes just in case I decide to stay another night or I feel like breakfast wasn't enough for me. I do carry, cheap like this, you got to have your Oreo cookies because chocolate, right? Usually it's peanut M&Ms, but I had a couple packages of Oreos at home, so I brought some of that. Trail mix. We've got goo, a couple different flavors of goo, just for quick burst of energy. Also, there's some caffeine in most of the goo products, so love these. Starbucks Instant Via Coffee, easy, already had those. And all these little bits will go in a Sea to Summit dry bag up in my the brain of my pack up top. Food or clothing bag. Right now, I don't need any additional clothes. I do have an extra pair of dry smart wool underwear just in case. I've got my anti-blister socks. These things are amazing, absolutely amazing. Paired with dry wool socks, I had no problems hiking and never developed a blister wearing these. Love them, love them, love them. And I love the Darn Toughs. These are easy to, you just rinse them out in a stream, wherever you find water, hang them on the straps on your bag. They're dry by the end of the day. Same thing with the underwear. I am going to tell you straight up, I did stress test these things. I did go for 30 days wearing the same pair just to find out. No issues, none. No issues whatsoever. They were as good on day 30 as they were on day 1. Just saying. I do like to stress test my stuff. Same thing with the socks. I stress test my socks. I wore the same pair of socks for 2 weeks straight. 24 hours a day. I wore them during the day. I wore them to bed at night. I slept in them. I lived in them. I worked in them. Wore the same pair of socks for 2 weeks straight. No odor whatsoever. Gotta love the wool. Gotta love the wool. Up in the brain, I also carry my medical kit, ultralight medical kit. Hopefully never need it. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Doesn't weigh hardly anything, so everything is in there. Little toothpaste. And these little ditties right here. So I've got my ditty bag. This is just my little ditty bag. Another Sea to Summit ditty bag. And I'll put my toothpaste, put an extra coffee in there. I've got some Sunbum lip balm, little stick of 50 SPF sunscreen. I've got my extra bag for, this has all like little attachments for the Sawyer squeeze and for my bottle system. You never know when, you know, a washer's going to go out, or you just need a little attachment. And for the weight, it's worth having that. A little hank of paracord that sits in there. I've got a Nightcore headlamp, fully charged, ready to go as a backup in case my main headlamp goes out. I do like having backups of things. That'll go in there. And earplugs, must have earplugs. If you find yourself camping near a highway, these are a must-have. Also, noisy campers, also staying in a lodge or a hotel if you're out traveling. You never know when you're going to need these. I actually offered a pair to a camper out on the Colorado Trail. We happened to be at a fairly heavy trailhead, and there were a lot of folks in there making a lot of noise, and so it was really nice to have the earplugs. I carry another lighter. This lighter has some flagging tape wrapped around it. Just, you never know when you're going to need that, and it's held on by an elastic hairband. And more coffee. Always coffee. Always coffee. Honey Stinger chews. A little protein bar. All that'll sit inside this little ditty bag. Then I use my this actually is the Thermarest pillow bag for that pillow that's in there. But I use this for my bear line. I keep my bear line in here. So I've got some orange paracord, highly visible. Another hank of olive paracord. Never know. Paracord. You gotta love the paracord. And that sits in there. And usually I'll keep this in the food bag so it's right. All that stuff is together. And in the food bag I will also put my MSR pocket rocket with the fuel can. I've used this pocket rocket stove for 15 years now, and it has held up absolutely wonderfully. Love this thing. These are easy to get. Great cooking. I just, if you're going to use one of these, remember if it's going to get cold at night, I should have last night, I should have slept with this in my tent. I didn't, and it wasn't an issue. In Colorado, though, I did make sure this was down in the footwell of my sleeping bag because this generally tends not to flow real well first thing in the morning if it's cold out. And that will sit in my GSR titanium cook pot. I throw the can in there. I throw the stove on top. I fold it over, and this sits in the food bag so that at night all that stuff is hung away from camp. I've got my 1 gallon trash bag for all the trash, and generic titanium long-handled spoon to get down into those food bags. And again, that goes in the food bag at night as well. Lead lenser headlamp. I love the lead lenser headlamp. 3 settings. It has a white light, a red light, and a high beam white light. And that high beam white light, I used it last night a few times. Man, does that cut through the dark. It just puts out some light. Love this thing. The only thing that I would comment on is it does have a proprietary charging system. I wish it was USB-C, but hey, you know, can't have everything right. We already talked about the extra camera bag, or the extra camera lens. I do carry a pack towel, just a chamois pack towel. Got the action cam, wireless goes, thermocell. I did use this last night. There were a few mosquitoes out here. I will tell you, being out in the swamp, mosquitoes are going to be here. They're really not bad. They are nowhere near as bad as what you would think. I did run this last night for a little bit because there were a few skeeters here, so I carry extra fuel and extra pads in my trash bag. They're in there. I just have to make sure I don't throw the fuel and the pads out when I go. Little Trident gum as a breath fresh. I should have put the cap on the fuel before I put that in the stove. Cap that off, put that back, set that over there. We've got the lens cap for the camera, Hennesy Hammock gear bag. Got some, oh, that's the part that I missed last night. Yes, you dummy. Tree straps, my bad. These are tree straps. I should have, yeah, you're right. I know, you probably noticed. I should have put these around the tree and then tied off to those. My bad, I'm a knucklehead. And then extra stakes for the tarp. Another bag of stakes and paracord over here. This feels like there's something else in there too. Hey, you never know what you packed yourself as a little surprise. So we've got extra stakes. What's down in there? Oh. Oh, okay. Those are all the little plastic bits that go on the guy lines. I don't use those, I just tie knots and go from there. Okay, now we're down to the last two things, and those are Nalgene's. I use two 1 liter Nalgene's, and I use Nalgene. I have smart water bottles. I prefer the Nalgene. I feel they are tough as nails. And the main reason that I carry Nalgene and not the smart water is that I know that I can boil water at night, fill this with hot water, and toss it down into my sleeping bag and use this as a hot water bottle to keep me warm, and I have done that. It also works extremely well to throw hot water in here and just slip it right into the pocket of my rain shell. And I've done that too, where it's been a rainy, cool day and just wanted to warm up, and throwing that in there, boom, instant hot water bottle, and that worked out so well. So that's why I carry Nalgene and not smart water. I'm not an ounce shaver. I'm not an ultralight hiker. I'm kind of in between that traditional slash, I'm not even trying to be ultralight. I am trying to be a little bit lighter than a heavyweight traditional, so I've gotten down pretty good on my pack weight and so forth. But that's why I carry the Nalgene. They're tough as nails, and I can put hot water in here, use it as a hot water bottle either in my shell or in my bag at night, and so that's that. And hey, that's the bag dump. Now I just got to make it all fit again. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up or not, but I can hear a swamp buggy over yonder. A lot of that goes on. This is a preserve, so those kinds of traditional recreational activities continue and are really important. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the Sidewinder and stuff it into the pack. Start packing up. Nope, I don't roll the bag. I just stuff it into the bag pouch on the bottom of my backpack. Zip it up. Clip it down. And that's good to go. Shout out to the National Park Service for installing these handy equipment hangers every so often, quite frequently along the trail. I can hang my hiking sticks, my jackets, put my gloves up to dry. I could hang my socks up here, my shoes up here. Great equipment racks. No, I'm only kidding. This is a Sabal palm, also known as a cabbage palm. These boot jacks make great equipment hangers. The story is that back in the pioneer days, pioneers would hang their boots off these to dry, and that's how they get their name boot jack. I don't know if that's true or not, but they do certainly make great equipment hangers. The Sabal palm, the cabbage palm, it's the same name, it's the same tree, it just depends on where you're from. The Sabal palm is called the cabbage palm because you can actually make a great cabbage stew out of these. This one's probably too mature to do that. I've never done it. I've never had cabbage palm stew before, but I've seen it out on the YouTubes, and it's certainly a traditional food source for people that live in these areas. Great stuff. The boot jacks on these trees, there's no like method to whether the tree has boot jacks or not. Some Sabal palms have boot jacks and some do not. It doesn't mean it's male or female or a different variety. It's just the individual tree. Most of the ones that I've seen out here have boot jacks growing on them, and they break off. This stuff makes great kindling. I think I already talked about that, so I'm not going to go any further into that. All right, let's look at a cypress. Let's take a look at a cypress. Back in the water. A little deeper here. It's about a foot deep. The preserve is called Big Cypress National Preserve, not because the cypress are especially big. They're not. They're actually kind of small. I'll take you someplace else and I'll show you some really big cypress trees. It's called Big Cypress because the area here is so big. There's so much land out here in Big Cypress. The cypress tree is a deciduous conifer. It's not an evergreen. It is a conifer. It does bear cones. Here's the cypress cone right here. More of a ball shape. An important food source for many of the animals that live out here. Squirrels love to get up in the tree and nibble on these things. It is deciduous because right now this tree is shedding its needles. There's a few needles left on this branch. They will shed their needles. South Florida has 2 seasons. Dry season and wet season. Right now we're entering the dry season. Days are becoming shorter, the rain is starting to fall less, and up until about May we'll have some rainfall in January. There's a couple of fronts that move through in January and bring some pretty good rains. But this area where I'm standing will dry out over the next couple of months. Days get shorter, and so the cypress sheds its needles. This young cypress over here behind me is still holding on to its needles, so it's still green. But that's a really important seasonal change in Florida plants, that the cypress tree will shed its needles over the winter. Beautiful swamp lily. Beautiful flower. Look at that. Just beautiful. So we're standing in sawgrass. It's not tall sawgrass. Mully grass up on the edge. There's the campsite. The reason the cypress out here don't grow very large is because the topsoil out here is really thin. In some cases, it's literally only inches deep. Underneath is limestone, and so there's not a lot of nutrients in the soil for the cypress to grow large. Pretty flowers. Purple flowers. There's not a lot of nutrients out here for the trees to grow large, and so they don't. These trees, even though they look small, can actually be 70, 100 years old. They just don't have the nutrients to get to those huge sizes that you see in some other areas that have better soil. The soil out here in Big Cypress tends to be really thin, and so you'll see a line of cypress over in the distance, and you'll see these domes. They're called cypress domes because they make a dome shape. And over time, the way that it works, the way the ecosystem works, as the cypress grows there, it dissolves the limestone underneath of it. So it's providing more soil depth for itself. So it's kind of an interactive relationship. It's a really interesting, unique ecosystem out here in the cypress swamp. There's a lot of periphyton out here. Periphyton is, let's get this back out and show you some periphyton. Periphyton is this stuff right here. We'd call it pond slime. Periphyton is it's a bacterial colony, algae colony. Let's see if we can get a better shot. There we go. It's a colony of organisms that lives together and photosynthesizes. And during the dry season, this stuff will dry up. It'll actually look like dried paper towels. And then as soon as the rain starts to come back, it'll fluff right back up. It's got the consistency of like wet bread. It'll sponge back up and absorb a lot of water. And it's an important part of the ecosystem because it actually precipitates minerals out of the water and helps to create soil. This is responsible for creating the marls, the marl soil that is out here in the cypress swamp. Very, very slow acting. It's not going to build soil tremendously over time, but that's one of the things that it does. Love the periphyton. Forgot to mention I also bring a saw with me, a little folding saw. Probably can't see it from here. I don't burn when I'm out here, but that's another piece of equipment that stays with me is the saw. Never know. Put all the bits on the sitting pad so I don't lose them. Double check, make sure I got everything out there. Yep. Well, I had to do a camera or a battery swap there, so I don't know how much of that the camera caught, but to set the hammock up, you unroll like that, and then to pack it up, you re-roll. All the guy lines stay attached. The guy lines for the tarp are attached. The guy lines for the hammock are attached. Nothing gets taken off. You simply roll it up, stuff it in, and boom, just like that, you're done. Would have been a whole lot better had I used the tree saver, but hey, first night sleeping in this. I've used it before during the day camping at a Jeep campsite, and I got here late after dark and wasn't thinking, so there we go. That's it. It's that simple. I just used a series of half hitches to tie off, overlapping each other, one on each of the 3 lines there, so that knot wasn't going to slip. Felt good about that, and it did not slip. Now, for next time, so I don't forget to put the tree savers up, I'm going to pull the tree savers out and put those in last. And now you just take it, roll it up. No right or wrong way. Cram it into the bag. Stuff, stuff, stuff. Yeah, I know. You're out there saying, hey, if you'd have rolled that up first, would have been a lot easier. You're right. You're not wrong. That's just me being me. Alrighty. And now, 1, 2 tree savers right in the top, so when I pull it out next time, I won't forget that step. There you go, Ted. Thank yourself next time. And into the pack she goes. I am a 6th grade teacher here in Collier County, Florida, and every year we bring our students out to Big Cypress National Preserve in a different location, and our 6th grade students actually have an experience called SWAMP. It's the Swamp Water and Me program, SWAMP. Those 6th graders will come out. For them, many of them, it's their first experience out in a national preserve, national park, and we take them on a wet walk. We take them into the swamp. They walk through the swamp up to their water's usually about knee deep, thigh deep for them because they're a lot shorter than me. And we go through a cypress swamp. We go through a prairie ecosystem like we're standing in right now. And then we go through a pineland flatwood habitat. And kids will do science investigations while they're there. They will learn all about the ecosystems. They'll learn all about the preserve. And they're led by National Park Service rangers, volunteers, and interns that work with the National Park Service. So huge shout out to all of them, especially my friend Lisa Andrews, who runs that program and has done so for a long, long time. We have brought out, just in Collier County alone, we've brought out well over 30,000 students over the past 25 to 30 years that we've been doing the program. We've never had an incident. People fear snakes and alligators and brain-eating amoeba and all kinds of things, and we've not had a single problem with any of that while we're out here. Alligators, essentially, okay, safety. You don't want to mess with an alligator, but truthfully, the wild alligators out here, and I'm going to distinguish between wild and habituated alligators.
The wild alligators out here are big babies. They hear you coming, they run away. Kids are always concerned, are we going to see a panther? Are we going to see an alligator? Are we going to see any snakes? Hey, when we're with a group of people, you're making so much noise that everything for about 6 miles around has just gone in the other direction. We do occasionally see a snake, not a poisonous snake, and we have systems in place to identify those and what we do, and kind of everybody holds their hand up and points at whatever that obstacle is, and we just go around it. Not an issue. We don't encounter alligators. Like I said, they're big babies. They just kind of run off. And if you are lucky enough to ever see a panther in the wild, you're lucky. I've been doing this a lot, and I would love to see a panther in the wild, and I have yet to do that. Snakes, pythons, invasive pythons, spend a lot of time out here in Big Cypress, and pythons are a problem. They are absolutely here. One could be literally within feet of me. I've never actually seen one. They are so well adapted to this environment that humans and pythons rarely ever encounter each other. In fact, I was talking with a python hunter 11 or 12 years ago. He'd been out here for 2 weeks hunting pythons, and he hadn't come across a single one. So the pythons, they're here. They are numerous. They are a problem. It's just something that the ecosystem is going to adjust to. Unfortunately, because the python feeds on the same game animals that the panther does, there is some competition there for food sources. One of the first way that you know that a python is potentially in the area is the small game starts to disappear. The rabbits, the raccoons are suddenly gone, and that tells you that the pythons are there. Well, anyway, I'm going to head out. I'm going to start walking back to the Jeep, and stay tuned because I'm going to go through everything that I did while I was here. All right? See ya. Elevation in Big Cypress is measured in inches, not in feet. It's flat, but those inches can make a huge difference. Just a small bit of elevation. We've come up out of the prairie, and now we're in a bit of a hardwood hammock. We've got some oak back here, some sable palm, some saw palmetto, some other trees, and that small difference in elevation has completely changed the ecosystem that we're in. 50 yards over there, we're back in a cypress strand. So in just the space of about 50 yards, we went from a hardwood hammock and now we're standing in a cypress swamp. A lot of gravel and rock here. Water's flowing this direction, so we see the natural sheet flow of water going through. I can see the water moving down. Gravel, rock, sand base, cypress tree, bromeliads, air plants. Tons of those out here. When they're in bloom, they are spectacular. And then we've got my friendly favorite, the cypress knee. The cypress tree will spread its roots out horizontally for stability because they can't go down deep. So they'll spread the roots out horizontally, and they'll shoot these cypress knees up. And that's one of the ways that the tree gets the oxygen that it needs. Plants do need oxygen, and it will use those knees to get oxygen. And I say they're one of my favorites because when you're hiking, specifically on the Florida Trail, through cypress strands and sloughs, you can't always see those things, and they just make a wonderful little trip hazard. Branch has fallen down with a bromeliad on it. We'll pick that up. And a little feather in there. Find a new home for this guy. Let's just set him. Let's just set that right there. There you go. All right. I can see some So one of the unique things about a cypress swamp, occasionally you'll see little sheets of oil floating on the surface of the water, and I can see some down there. And it is suspected that the cypress tree produces those oils. Not really quite 100% sure. It could possibly be oil seepage from underground. Nobody's 100% sure on that, but the kind of the general rule of thumb is it's actually produced by the cypress tree, and it's gathering down there. There's a branch laying across the stream. I did see the baby alligator here last night, and so I was just curious if Mama wasn't up under that culvert that I came down through. And there's no gator right there, but that's usually where they kind of like to hang. And there's lots of fish swimming in the water. They've all scattered now that I've stepped into it. But yeah, I love me some cypress swamp. Beautiful. Hey y'all, if you know, you know. If you follow Dixie on YouTube, and I do, and I love her, this is the trail, this is the site where Dixie made her baby reveal video last year, and super cool. Like, shout out to her, props. I love her. I've been following her for a few years now, and she's got some of the best, absolutely the best stuff on YouTube for backpacking and hiking. She does it all. She's phenomenal. If you haven't, check her out. But hey, shout out to Dixie, and if you happen to catch this, hope you and the baby are doing well. Little game trail. See some footprints here, so obviously probably used for hunting. Again, one of those allowable activities in Big Cypress National Preserve. Looking for footprints along the trail. Looks like deer, small deer, maybe no, I'm going to go with raccoon. I'm going to go with raccoon on that one. If it was alligator, I would see a tail drag, and I don't see any tail drag. So, alligator not recently. Just looking to see, maybe I'll come across a panther print in the mud, which is always just an amazing experience. Yeah, small game, probably raccoon. The only problem that I run into when I come across a panther footprint is I always realize I have forgotten my plaster of Paris, which is, I should just put a plaster of Paris kit in my backpack and just keep it there. I did get a good bear print hanging in my garage that I remembered to bring my plaster kit with me. Ground is definitely soupy and muddy. Trail's narrowing down here. Yeah. Not seeing anything much larger than small game. There's a trail that goes off that away. This main trail goes off that away. There's another little trail that goes off that away. There's maybe a small one that goes that way. And now's a great time to talk about Leave No Trace. I do follow Leave No Trace when I'm in the backcountry or when I'm anywhere. It doesn't matter. And I distill that down to one very important rule. Leave nothing but footprints, take nothing but pictures. All right, this is gumbo limbo. It's often called the tourist tree. Can you guess why? Oh, that is brisk. That is brisk. Woo! Yeah, I did. Oh. Whew. That's how you get a bath. Well, that is always a good sign when you get back to the Jeep. And you get bird prints on your hood. That's so cool. That makes Hawkeye happy.